What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ and Buck with you. And Buck, we've had some cool guests on this show. We've had World Series champs, we've had NFL champs, college champs, you name it, across a wide variety of spectrums. But today's guest, I might be more fired up than any of them.
Yeah, former number 1 overall pick, Andrew Luck, is going to join the program, talk about all things Stanford, his new role as a general manager, and just making a transition from being a standout player to being a standout team builder.
Yeah, and if you're thinking this is going to be a deep dive into his NFL career or why he decided to retire at such a young age, that's not what this is. This is about the future. This is about Andrew Luck as the general manager of Stanford football, someone who has such a unique background and experiences, really at Stanford as well as going on to the NFL, whose dad was an administrator and an athletic director. And now he finds himself in this role of trying to revive a Stanford football program that he helped build up. Has kind of come crashing back down, and he's in the process of trying to get it back onto the mountaintop. So one of the more fascinating men in all of sports, and a conversation we're really looking forward to, and I think you're going to enjoy it. Here's our chat with Andrew Luck. All right, Buck, excited to have with us a player we both scouted back in our NFL days, and someone who has had an incredible journey and is now the general manager for the Stanford Cardinal. Andrew Luck joined us. Andrew, how you doing, man?
I'm doing really well. To be clear, this is not my jersey behind me. It's John Brody. I get dogged on.
No, that's good.
I have my Plunkett jersey next to it. I tried to switch up. The wire was wrong, and I gave up. So I put John Brody back up.
That's fantastic. Hey, as we get started here, I was going back through my notes on you. I think that was 2012, right? Was your draft year? Yeah. So I was with the Eagles, and I just remember going through there, and the first question that everybody asked was, how'd you guys get this guy? So I've never heard that story from you, your recruiting process, why you chose Stanford.
Yeah, well, I've thought about it a lot more being a GM now and spending a good chunk of my time recruiting to this amazing university, in the football program. We were in Houston, Texas. I grew up in a football family. My dad was a sports exec for NFL Europe, right? And a sports exec in a bunch of other places. We ended up moving to Houston for middle school and high school. And I was a football obsessed kid. And we were a family that stressed academics. My parents did a great job, I think, with all of us growing up. And I enjoyed school, and I was a nerd, and I liked playing with Legos, and I loved playing sports, and I loved playing football, and I loved playing basketball and baseball, and I got to, I won the starting job on our varsity team, Stratford High School, my sophomore year, and started getting recruited, right? And certainly when you're the son of a former NFL quarterback, you get, there's name recognition. Jim Harbaugh was hired by Stanford. I can't remember exactly when. But I remember it was, we used to have a computer in our living room, and my mom was an early adopter of computers and Yahoo, and she had, emails, it was cool. So we had a computer. And so my dad, I think, was figuring out that he could go get his sports news on the internet, not, wait for the Houston Chronicle to come in the morning. So he would sit there and type like an old man, and he yelled out, "Hey, Stanford just hired Jim Harbaugh as the head football coach." And I didn't, it went way over my head, but I think a seed had planted in his mind. He's like, "Let's go out and visit Berkeley and Stanford." So a spring break, my dad took me out to visit Jim Harbaugh, who was pretty new in his job, and getting a very infamous bathroom built connected to his office, which you can read about at some point. And I visited. I fell in love with Coach Harbaugh and his enthusiasm and his deep conviction that you could win here. And I looked at Stanford as the singular place that was going to get the most out of all of me. As a quarterback, I wanted to be like Jim Plunkett and John Elway, right? I wanted that. This place had history. I knew Coach Harbaugh was going to push me. I knew the staff was going to push me. I knew I was going to go to one of the best, if not the best, school in the world. And I wanted to challenge myself that way. I wanted to make sure I was growing. So, I committed to a team that went 1-11 the year before, Coach Harbaugh got there, because I believed in this thing and believed in doing it a little different. Perhaps than some others in my situation. And I was a pretty big recruit, not big, but I was good. And I met a bunch of the other guys too. A bunch of other commits, a bunch of guys in the locker room. I realized, hey, these guys are from all over the country. They love football. They're obsessive over it. And you walk by and they're having a conversation about the Israeli-Palestine conflict, or why, what happens when water actually boils at 212 degrees? What's happened? whoa, this is cool. And I'm sure glad I did. I was pushed. I grew a lot. Coach Shaw, Coach Harbaugh, Greg Roman, Pep Hamilton, the coaching staff challenged me. I was prepared for the NFL when I came out. I really was. The way they asked me to run an offense was like an NFL team, and they taught it. They were great teachers, and so I take a lot of that to my job now.
It's funny, Andrew, because that was going to be my natural transition because you went in to a program that was 1-11 before you got there. You've seen it go from the bottom to where they had the pinnacle of Stanford football. Yep. How do you try and replicate that in your current role as a general manager, where you currently have Frank Reich, but eventually you may have a full-time coach? Like, how do you take what you learned as a player and replicate that now as a general manager?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think there are some timeless principles in our sport, right? And there's probably some timeless principles organizationally across industries. And like the world has changed. We are paying players and we're excited about it, right? The transfer portal is different than when I was in school. One, Coach Harbaugh's having a leader of the program that had deep conviction that we were going to win, and what might be perceived as challenges were not going to be excuses, right? At all. Right? Coach Harbaugh said, well, shoot, if we can only recruit 40 or 50 guys a year because of the academic threshold, let's go find the best 40 or 50 and make sure our yield is higher than everybody else, right? In high school recruiting. Good. That's profoundly affecting how I do this. Two, let's build a foundation of like hard work, respecting each other, holding really, really, really high standards, because we have high expectations. We have very high expectations. And those have to be rooted in very high standards and really high care, right? And so those coaching staffs, Coach Harbaugh, Coach Shaw afterwards, they did it authentically. Coach Harbaugh was authentically himself. Coach Shaw was authentically himself. I learned to be the best quarterback I could be. I had to be me, right? Including walking into a locker room where Peyton Manning had been the previous quarterback. Because if I was trying to be Peyton, a version, Andrew's version of Peyton, that it would fail quickly, right? Fail quickly. And I was given license by Dwight Freeney on day one, walking in that locker room and said, Andrew, you need to be the best you can be. No one else. This team just needs you. That meant a whole lot as a young rookie quarterback coming into, into that space. So, one, bringing all of me as a leader to this thing. Two, going and finding the unicorns around the country in high school that have the grades and ball out, right? That are willing to put the work in. And willing to learn and play great football, building a culture of brotherhood where our young men are playing for each other, right? And understand our plan. And you mentioned it too. Frank has done an unbelievable job this year. He saved my bacon, man, coming in for 8 months and doing this thing, and the progress and that our team has made is unbelievable. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of our staff. I get proud watching these guys every Saturday go out and lay it on the line, and it's a wonderful thing to be a part of.
You touched on two things I wanted to get some further thought on, because you talked about the foundation and building a foundation. I think of your studies and your background in design, architectural design, like how that plays into it, and what does this foundation need to be to go forward. And the second thing is we've talked a lot, and just talking to our buddies in GM roles in all different sports. The phrase that we've heard more than any other the last 24 months has been care factor. We can talk about it's easy. The scouting, the talent is really, it is what it is. But trying to find guys with a very high care factor is the challenge. How do you go about doing that when you're visiting with 17, 18-year-old kids?
Oh, man, that's what a great question, right? It is the question. I think of care factor at two different levels.
Yeah.
I think one at the individual. Do I love football? And do I love learning, right? Because have I seen enough evidence that I can get better at football, right? Like, you want kids who are just obsessed about getting better at football, because that gets to become an addictive feeling, and that's a virtuous fly cycle, right? Like a flywheel of better. Frank Reich has done that for our guys. They've gotten better. The coaching, our staff, they're like, get better. And then also for our staff, right? Are we getting better? Am I getting better in this job? Is there a level of intrinsic motivation, often tied with love of something, right? Hard to want to get better at something if you just sort of like it a little bit or like really don't like it. But sussing that out, I'm not sure I have a formula yet. Some of it I think is gut instinct and feel, right? And maybe that's the art of recruiting or personnel. I think some of it's the right line of questioning, and oftentimes it's You got to find character references, right? You got to find people who will spill some story that has some nugget of truth and put enough of those nuggets of truth together to find a picture. And then you take a leap of faith, right? I also believe of care factor of how are we as a program taking care of our people, right? And giving everyone the best chance to have their care factor grow as they're, it's not a static thing, right? It's not a static, right? Like we have to be a place that, I mentioned high expectations and standards and high care, like high standards and high care. That's the right combination. It gets old if there's really high standards and low care, right? It also gets old. It's kid gloves if it's real high care and low standards, right? And there's a quote from one of my mentors, Admiral Sandy Winnefeld, an amazing man. He's got a great book on leadership called Sailing Upwind. He was, I'm going to say the words wrong, but chief of staff for Colin Powell at some point. And Colin turned him in a car. He tells this great story. We turned him in a car and said, Sandy, morale has never been improved by lowering standards, right? So how do we have a system of high care and high standards and find the people that will thrive in that system? And look, I'm like 9 months in this job. I like the data's not there. This is like I should say the big data. I know we're on the right path. I have a deep conviction that this is the right path, but there's faith in this, right? Man, I'd love to be sitting here 5 years from now saying, yeah, we just won 4 national championships. But that's how I'm approaching both the like sussing out care factor and, well, Andrew, you got to hold up your end of the bargain too. You got to help young men tend that care factor and grow it,
Andrew, I'm so fascinated because I do remember going down and watching you play one of your final games down in the Fiesta Bowl and how the brand that Stanford had become. You guys have talked about Nerd Nation or intellectual brutality and those things. Talk about it. When you look at Stanford, because you've been a part of it, what is that brand when it comes to the football program?
Yeah. I think why Nerd Nation and intellectual brutality were so authentic was because they and this is an overused word, but they organically grew out of an identity, right? And so what I see our team doing right now is working their butts off and practicing hard and being professional and understanding the better we execute a game plan, the better we understand the game plan, the better chance we have of winning a game. So I love Nerd Nation because Shane Scove, my teammate, who was an All-American linebacker, someone from the stands gave him a pair of glasses with some tape around it.
I remember it. Yeah.
After a huge win, and he put him on for the press conference, and it was like, let's own who we are because we are a bunch of nerds. Because everybody they love on the team at least. You love football, and there's probably something else that you're willing to go deep in. And then intellectual brutality. I give that to Mike Bloomgren, the current offensive line coach of the Cleveland Browns, because it's all about getting rid of either or, getting rid of a paradox. You're either intellectual or you're brutal. Let's combine like this, and create a new paradigm. And I love that about Stanford, right? Scholar, athlete, we do it, right? Intellectual brutality. That I love it. So those are models. Those are heuristics, I think. But we've also got to chart our own path. And I'm curious as this goes, what comes up. We certainly have a vision. I mean, we certainly do. We're built different to be different, right? We got kids who like embrace the grind, who want to earn it, who are looking to be challenged in every way, shape, or form. We think better men make better players, right? Better players make better teams. And I'm curious what sort of catchphrase, social media slogan comes out of this, but it's got to be authentic and there's got to be integrity and fidelity to who we actually are, because that's what resonates,
Absolutely. I was thinking back to the first time I went on campus at Stanford and where we used to park as scouts. We'd have to walk across the whole campus. I remember the first time, Buck, we've talked about this. I remember parking the first time, and it was a fall day. It wasn't an early visit. It was a little bit later in the fall. And I remember walking across, and I swear I thought I was on a sound stage or something, because the leaves just kind of started falling. I look to my left, and there's the women's soccer team practicing. I'm sure there's probably 6 Olympians there. Yep. Then I hear the ping of the baseball bat, and I'm sure there's probably a couple first-round picks on that field as they're kicking some BP. Walk by the pool where there's a high diver, and I'm sure, I don't know which country, but there's an Olympian that's just jumping off the high dive. And then I walk in the building. I remember after that day, Andrew, I called my parents and I said, if you would have taken me to Stanford in 8th grade, I would have got better grades in high school. I didn't know a place like this existed. So how important is it for you when you're recruiting these guys to get them on campus and not just take your word for it, but come experience it?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, I don't mean this in a snobby or snooty way, but it's a special place, as you laid out. And like, I'll finish your story, and then you walk into a football building, and there's David DeCastro and Kobe Fleeter and Michael Thomas and myself, Zach Ertz, who is like down the fountain of youth and just like still balling at a level that, these tight ends playing forever is unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
And we think it's a special place. I met my wife here. She was a gymnast, right? Representing the Czech Republic. We all live in a dorm freshman year with a random roommate. Like, that's, where else do you get that in life, right? And we need kids to embrace that. I'm still friends with my dorm mate, Dennis Carmenar from Turkey. He's an amazing dude, lives in the Bay Area, right? Like, it's an amazing place. And you mentioned the sports. You're also going by an academic building where we're unbelievable breakthroughs in whatever mission it is are happening. It's a place that rewards the pursuit of excellence, not just attaining excellence, but the pursuit. So getting young men and their families on campus is core to our recruiting strategy because we think it sells itself. And then my job really is to make sure that the football is serious, right? Like serious, like aspects of what I had, old school principles, some new school methods, but there are some timeless truth. But because I came to Stanford, to maybe more succinctly answer the first question, I came to Stanford because it was serious about football and serious about other things. And it was a place where I did not want to take myself too seriously. But, our guys are embracing the seriousness of football. My year, I think we had Nneka Ogwumike go first overall in the WNBA. An amazing, this amazing hoopster from Houston as well. I went first overall in the NFL draft. Mark Appel was either drafted as a pitcher, drafted like first or top 5. It was like, you're just surrounded. Like, I go to the Olympics. My wife's a producer for gymnastics on NBC. I went to the Paris Olympics. What a treat. Like, there's 59 Stanford affiliated athletes. My classmates, Katerina Stefanidi, pole vaulter, Greece, gold medalist at Rio. We were in the training room together. Like, that's awesome. I watched Eric Shoji win a bronze medal in men's volleyball, who was freshman dorm mates with my teammates. Like, we're boys. We partied together, Like, it's an amazing group to be a part of. And I love that our football team is part of a broader fabric and culture of let's go figure out how to be excellent,
Andrew, I got to ask you this because I find it fascinating when I watch you on game day. I notice that you're right on the sideline and it looks like you're almost in the huddle. As a general manager, tell me why you feel the need to be on the field, be on the sidelines, to really immerse yourself into the game.
Yeah, one of the things Coach Reich encouraged me and us, and I've learned so much from that man. And one as it was, my last year playing in the NFL was him. I quit, walked away on him and Chris Ballard, and our relationship only got stronger. Right, like he brings a humanity and a steadfastness and a integrity and a care factor for his job and his people that like is inspiring. And I know in large part that's what our young men are responding to. And so I'm eternally grateful. So, one of the things he challenged is like, we just had this theme of like, Andrew, embrace how unique and weird this season is. Just embrace it. Because the first game I was up in the booth and it was a tough pill for us to swallow. We lost to Hawaii, and Frank and I downloaded for like 5 hours after the game. We both didn't sleep while you wake up. You talk, how does this go? He's like, I need you out of the booth, Andrew. I need you on the field. Right? Because I'm involved in training camp. I'm involved in practice. We have an egoless group of coaches, and I respect the coaching profession too much to step on their toes. But like, I'm going to go talk to our quarterback coach and Frank about the cover zero plan or cadence or how to. Just the little finer points. I know I have value there. So Frank asked me to be on the sideline, right? He said it would help me as the head coach, Andrew, if I knew you were there. And so I said, yes. And then said, well, if I'm going to be on the sideline, I better bring all of myself. And that is all of myself. Like that's the only way I know how to be on a sideline. I mean, the guys laugh because I say the same 2 things the whole game. I just yell it, one play at a time, re-engage and persist. One play at a time, re-engage and persist. And you know what? I don't know if I'm there forever. I don't know how but it's what this team this year, it's what our head coach wanted. I want to provide for our head coach. That's, providing for our players, providing for our coaches, and being a resource for our head coach. If that's going to help us win games, I'm there.
I absolutely love it. We got a couple more minutes with you here. This is a quick one. Is the Versa Climber still in the weight room?
No. And
come on. The torture rack.
I've got psychological scars from the Versa Climber.
I can remember being in there. It was Coach Turley, I think, at that time, in the strength coach's office. And you look out and you saw, I think that man is going to die. He is on the Versa Climber, and there's somebody who's going to literally drop dead in this weight room right now. That thing was a torture rack.
It was. We still have I love a dungeon weight room too. I love an underground weight room. We still got it. The guys go down to the pressure cooker. Our strength coach, Ryan Dietrich, is amazing. And you know what? I'm going right down for the Versa Climber question after this.
Yes. Let's bring that thing back, man. Last thing, we'll let you run. You've been so generous with your time. You mentioned, and I wrote it down. I'm looking forward to reading Sailing Upwind. I have not read that book, but is there any other book you would recommend to us and those are listening? If you want to build an organization or build a culture, give us a good book that we can dive into.
Oh man. Look, I need help on this too. This is part of what I've reached out to the folks I know, like Lynch and Chris Ballard. I had a chance to go to Brad Stevens. I'm trying to embody being the best at getting better, right? If I expect that from our players, there's an old school book. I'm going to have to text it to you guys after.
Okay.
So you can put it on.
I'll take it.
I think it's called The Winning Way. It's a book written in the 80s or 70s about. And there's a chapter on each of the sort of Wooden, Lombardi, some of these old school coaches and their philosophies. And look, it's, it would need a rewrite in today's day and age, I guess is all I'd say, right? Yeah. And so you have to read it knowing this was written in a different era, but there are some real nuggets of how, when college sports has changed so much, but head coaches used, forever and ever, it was the head coach's program, but it's, there are some real nuggets of truth and style and substance that I love from that book. I'll text it to you guys. Okay. Put on your socials, connected to this thing, all that jazz.
All right,
guys.
You're the best, man. Hey, we're rooting for you. It's been fun to watch your journey, and let's get Stanford rocking and rolling again.
Let's go. Appreciate y'all. Take care. Thanks for having me on. Fun time.
All right, Buck. That was fun. I mean, in some ways, very thankful we got 25 minutes with Andrew Luck, but I could have done another hour there. He's a fascinating guy, man.
Yeah, he's so fascinating. And DJ, it's not only him, but I just remember because I feel like we watched Stanford rise to prominence while we were scouts. And
people don't understand how unthinkable that was. Well, they were the doormat of college football.
They were the doormat of college football. And all of a sudden they became the bullies in the Pac-10. And just watching them do it and having a premier quarterback like that who embraced the physicality and toughness and old school demeanor that they played with. To me, I'm fascinated, but I do believe he can take the lessons that he learned as a player and apply them down the road. I just can't wait to see when they hire a permanent coach and he kind of gets settled in his role to see what that looks like, because I do believe it can return. I'm just excited to see what kind of iteration it becomes.
Yeah, I was doing some research for that thing and looking at it. The last 6 seasons, Stanford, coming into this year had won 20 games. At one point in time, in the previous six seasons, they won 102. So that they had an unbelievable run, and then it's come kind of crashing down. And he's trying to build it back up in a new era with NIL and everything else. And the question is, can you have it all? Can you have the academics and the athletics? Are there enough kids that want to pursue that you can have a championship level roster? I think he wholeheartedly believes it, and he's out to try and get it done. And the other thing, reading about him was he's so smart. He realizes, build the culture. You got to do all those things. But the other thing he's got to go raise money. And he's been out there hustling and doing that with the alums.
Yeah, no, I think he's uniquely qualified because, one, he knows that spot. And we don't know if it'll become a trend, but I think Andrew Luck being at Stanford, Clark Lee being at Vanderbilt, some people being at these prestigious academic institutions, knowing the warts and the lay of the land and how to navigate around it to have success is critical. And I do believe, because what he talked about, the brand, it exists beyond what we talk about on the field. Being around all those Olympians and being around all the business people that spend time there. They have a nice offering. I just believe it's the way that you package it, sell it, and the audience that you direct that message to. That is really what matters.
Sailing Upwind. I had not read that one, so I'm going to wrote that one down, and then we'll figure out. I'm sure he'll text Singer, our booker, and let us know what that book was once he figures out what it was. Be on the lookout for that. We'll post that on socials. Anything else, Buck, before we get out of here?
No, it was fantastic, man. I love talking to him to have his perspective now in a new role. We know how great he was as a quarterback, but now to see him in a new role and to take all those different experiences and to put it together. Really excited for him.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, that's going to do it for us. We appreciate you guys. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, share it with a friend. And if you haven't, we do appreciate those reviews. Like, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. We don't ask you for that often, but it does help. We'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.